like and subscribe. Now. What's the shittiest way a friend has shown you they weren't really your friend? Ghosted me after 20 plus years of friendship. He was my best friend for as long as I can remember, but at some point he just stopped saying yes when I suggested getting together. We could have a conversation about anything, but the second I brought up doing something it was radio silence. He finally agreed to something, then blew me off like an hour beforehand. No rain check or suggestion we try again. I was depressed for days, but that was the day I gave up. He was the best man at my wedding. I loved him like a brother and still hope he's doing well and happy. But the rejection hurts so much that I just don't try anymore. I've mourned the death of our relationship and am done with it. And I still don't know why. I had 12 hours before I deployed to Afghanistan. I lived about 6 hours from my point of departure, airport from which I would fly into theater. And my friend ex-girlfriend had committed to driving me there on that day. Packed, dressed, goodbye said. I take an Uber to her house with all my gear and baggage ready to go. I knock on the door and she answers in her robe. I ask her if she was about ready and she proceeds to tell me that she forgot after we had talked 2 days prior, and that she really wasn't feeling like driving that distance. Utterly shocked and confused, I explained to her that if I miss my flight, it's considered a failure to report for duty and I could be considered a deserter or a WOL. Heavy consequences for it either way. She told me to figure it out and close the door. At that point I had no idea what to do, so I called my first sergeant. We worked in a very remote location and he was the closest person to me at that point. That man drove the 3 hours from his home to get me and then the other 6 hours to the airport. Bought me dinner and got me tipsy before I had to get on my flight. I had the stunning realization that day that you really can't trust anyone. But I gained a lifelong friend as a result. We still talk regularly till this day. I drive 6 hours, one way, twice in the span of a year to visit this FA because I thought we were friends and he acted like we were. It cost me $300 each time to visit him, but he was alone in his new city. He moved away for his first job post-uni and kept messaging me saying I should come visit blah blah blah. Later I find out this guy has came back to my town multiple times and didn't hit me up once, and he stayed 4 months at a time. Then I tell him about this and he says okay, he'll visit next time he's back in town. So then next time comes around and he stops by literally right before he's about to drive home to say hi for 5 minutes. Like, dude, you don't wanna see me? Why are you just going through all this BS and making me waste my money? They called me up and invited me over to play a game with them and their friends. At the time I had only barely started driving, but I decided, yeah, that sounds like fun. So I went over to play. When I arrived I found out that they had volunteered me to pick up the other friends. I was not prepared to do this, but she trapped me because I had already agreed to come play with her friends. I was pretty annoyed by this, but I went ahead and drove to 3 places picking everyone up, and no one was really ready to go when I arrived, and one of them also needed me to drop them back on campus to drop off their school assignment. By the time all was said and done it was really late and I needed to get back home because I had to get up in the morning to go to work. Not one of them even said thank you. The friendship didn't really last much longer after that. Promised to invite me to a group outing, only to text me one day out of the blue that they already left, and oh well. From mutual friends who went on the outing, they told me that this friend never told them that I was invited. I had a similar friend. I am rather socially awkward person and I don't get invited to things often. Turned out this group of acquaintances asked the friend to invite me several times to hang out and the friend said that they would, but then they'd come back and say that I declined. They never told me about this. Everything came to light when I met one of these acquaintances by chance and they said it was a pity I never had time to hang out, but by then I'd missed out on a lot. In 8th grade, after I switched schools, a friend of mine called me one night and told me a kid I wanted to be friends with killed himself. 3 months later I visit their graduation ceremony and find out he lied to me and that the kid was still alive. Such a weird lie though. Also called me one night and told me, so it was premeditated. Like, what is the thought process? Long time ago, but my 10th birthday party, the first time I'd actually tried to have a big group. It was around 30 kids at a park with a t-ball set up, normal picnic stuff, the like. My best friend at the time said he had a surprise for me in one of the fenced walkways leading to the park, where he sucker punched me and his other friend and he took turns jumping on and kicking me. After a few minutes another kid from the party saw, ran them off, and took me back to my ma away from the other kids so I didn't have to be too embarrassed. I offered to pay everything and even pay her for her time off work for my best friend to come to my wedding, but she didn't. It was a really small backyard wedding and I didn't have any bridesmaids nor did I want anyone to spend money getting dresses blah blah blah. I just wanted her to come. The excuse she gave was work and so I understood, but then later found out she lied and had planned a trip with her other friends. I still don't know why she didn't want to come. We were friends for over 10 years and although it wasn't the first time she had really hurt me, it was the last. My best friend since middle school got me knocked unconscious after starting a confrontation with a large group of guys. Proceeded to tell everyone we worked with that I had started it. Few weeks later I had returned from a holiday to my home country and he had moved one of his friends into my room at the place we were renting. Never talked to him again. I had a very close friend in high school. She moves to Alabama for uni after we graduated, but we kept close. When she came back we didn't talk much, but I still considered her a close friend. We went out for coffee about 2 years ago. She kept asking me about my life and my goals and I said I was happy where I am. I coach gymnastics, and my boyfriend and I will eventually take over his family farm and start our own family. She texted me 2 days later and said, "Hey, so my entrepreneur friend is hosting a workshop. Do you want me to sign you up?" I said no, but thanks for the offer. She then texted me, "So clearly we are at 2 different points in our lives. You have no goals or ambitions, and I don't want that kind of negativity in my life. I wish you the best," and I never spoke to her again. I'm really happy with my boyfriend and I enjoy my work. One day we're going to take over his family's farm. I don't need that negativity in my life. Lol. Yeah, that bit about the workshop makes me think she was gonna sell you an MLM. Sorry you lost a friend to that. My best friend got with my first husband while I was pregnant. Helped destroy our marriage. Supported him so he could quit his job and avoid paying child support. Joined him in abusing my kids while they were with him. And then tried to cry on my shoulder when he ended up screwing her over when they split after 14 years of jointly making my life a living hell. This is currently happening. I had a stroke in 2020. I'm young, 31, and then found out that my kidneys were failing shortly after. I know it's a pandemic, but not one of my friends have even texted me to check on me, or ask my husband who they're all also friends with. Literally everyone cut me off when I got sick. Can't drink, not friends anymore. Lied about me at our government job where I was investigated by the AG and ultimately caused me to leave a job and a boss I loved. She quit when we found out it was her who lied, as she knew my boss would can her Ray. Oh, and I'm the one who got her hired. How do people just wake up one day and decide to do stuff like this? She looked in the mirror. I'm powerful. Going over to their house to hang out and finding around 10 of my missing Xbox games and a loose stack of discs in his living room. Arriving late to a friend's birthday party a few years ago. The birthday boy introduced me as the guy I was telling you all about. Cool dude, but I wouldn't trust him with my wallet. He was drunk and it wasn't a joke. I had a girlfriend break up with me and tell me how my roommate would send her dick pics, call her on weekends, drunk dial her etc to try to get her to F. These are the ones that come to mind right now. After 25 years of friendship, I announced to my best friend that I was moving to the city she was in. I had a great job opportunity and felt like it was an awesome time to make a big life change. I was so excited to tell her. I could hardly wait. She flatly replied with, "Cool," and when I asked her what parts of town I should look at to live, she stated, "I can't help you. You should just figure it out when you get here." We never had a fight, had been close for our entire adult lives, and I had continually helped her in all aspects of her life without hesitation. To this day, I cannot tell you why she started treating me this way. Long story short, we live in the same city and haven't seen each other in 6 years, and I'm quite sure we live minutes away from each other. I will never know what happened. Wow, that is just astonishing. Really makes me wonder. Every time a friend succeeds, I die a little. Gore Vidal, you got a great job and we're on an upswing, and I speculate someone got jealous. I'm sorry this happened to you. invited me to her wedding as a gesture of reconciliation and then uninvited me when I RSVP'd, or in other words, responded to her invitation. Also, another friend took me out to lunch and let me cry to her after I broke up with my ex. She said she had to go to her mom's for a while and she'd be back that evening with treats and a red box. She ended up hooking up with my ex. Yikes. What in the name of sanity? I'm having trouble wrapping my head around this behavior. Hopefully you never saw these sleaze buckets ever again. Hope things are better for you. It was my 17th birthday. I had invited 2 of my best friends to stay the night. I waited 4 hours and finally got a text saying they got in trouble. They were twins and couldn't stay the night. About an hour later they were tagged in pictures. They were at another girl's house. I confronted them the next day and they stuck with their lie and said their mom wouldn't drive them because they were in terrible, so they walked to this other girl's house. My mom asked their mom because she knew how hurt I was. She didn't even know about my birthday. And they weren't in trouble. I stopped hanging out with them. Learned a few months later that one of them had decided she didn't like me because her 20-year-old crush, another friend's brother, had said it was a shame I was a minor because he thought I was cute. What a childish reason to end a friendship. Bullet dodged. So many things wrong with this. Friend found out I had cancer. She took me out to eat. She then took me to her MLM presentation. Was she trying to get you to cure your cancer with essential oils? Probably. My cousin gave my mom a 45-minute presentation in how her oils could cure my schizophrenia and depression. My mom told her at the end that she listened because she had respected my cousin, but now not so much, and to please get the F out with that bullsh. I love my mom. Made us come to her seminar thing for some pyramid scheme thing. I just know it is. I thought we were going to hang out and she told me that she was going to bring us out and eat. She just abandoned us right after that. Had one friend that bought a bunch of tickets for a midnight movie premiere for myself and our entire friends group. About 15 of us. Day of the show. He texts me and says he forgot to buy a ticket for me. I ask, what do you mean you forgot to buy my ticket? Of the 15 you bought, how is it my ticket that you decided wasn't purchased? Turns out, he did buy a ticket for me included in the 15 he bought, but he just met a girl the week prior, and decided to give my ticket to her, so our entire friends group went to the movie, minus me. There's other things he did to me as well. We're no longer friends. I had a few roommates do this to me. We drive an hour into town and Bud, who got the tickets, broke the news and then offered his van for me to drive around in until the movie was over. The van we all drove in. I took it home and turned off my phone. This was the second time and last time they did this to me. I moved out shortly thereafter. The audacity to not have the decency to tell you before you got in the van. The fact that you took it and left them without a ride back really set my soul at peace. Hopefully it was a schmovie. I hope their popcorn tasted stale and slightly burnt. It turns out that he lied about every single thing. We were friends for over a year, but it felt like we'd known each other forever. He would always make it a point to let me know that I was someone he trusted, and that I was the only person he had. He would tell me that everyone leaves him, that he always hurts people, and my response to this was to make sure that I would never leave his texts unanswered, and promise to be there for him no matter what. One day, out of the blue, he tells me that our friendship is over. I remember feeling like my heart was shattered. I cried for weeks, trying to figure out what I'd done wrong. Our mutual friends assured me that he had a very good reason for doing this, and he'd be back to being my friend soon. So I began waiting, constantly worried about him. He told all our mutual friends what was wrong, except me, and instructed them not to let me know. Finally, my best friend calls me one day and tells me that he's lied to every single person he knows, and nothing we thought we knew about him was true at all. Turns out, he told everyone that he'd been diagnosed with cancer and had to take time away from everyone. During our friendship, he opened up to me about his extremely abusive household, and most of our friendship was me letting him know that he deserved better and I'd do anything to help him out of there. None of what he said was true. The truth came out because one of my friends caved and called his sister to find out how he was doing. She was confused because he was absolutely healthy, and when asked about their parents' separation, she confirmed that their parents were indeed together, and were never at risk of divorce. That's a class A narcissist right there. Yep, 100% textbook. felt like that story could have been taken directly from our narcissistic abuse. We were friends since babies. Our moms worked at the same place. My mom saw him as her own child and frequently he was at our house after school. Because her mom was kind of absent, his family moved out of the state but we kinda kept in touch. Then he came back. While we were on our 20s, my mom was going to start remodeling the house. He insisted on helping us since he was working with a construction company. Long story short, he said he needed some money for the construction permits. In hindsight it wasn't even that much, but he took the money and we never saw him again. He even blocked me on Facebook. We later found out that the permit costs was a fraction of the money he took. Biggest pain in the heart was watching my mom crying, disappointed that her own son would do that to her. So F him. Speaking as someone who has never met either you or your ex-friend, this seems like something a drug addict would do. A friend was moving internationally. He offered me a fridge and washing machine for about half price. I was in uni, but desperately needed it. I told him I had like $20 PW to work with and he was cool with it. We agreed to $15 per week for a year. 6 weeks later his girlfriend comes around to tell me he wants to take me to court to get the rest in one payment. I get served and go to court and present the original agreement. His girlfriend says he needs the money urgently and the judge says that don't mean sh. He then calls my dad and says I stole his sh. Dad calls me and I lay it all out. Dad ends up paying him the remainder just to get him to go away. F you with a pineapple, Toby. You see. F you, Toby. Everyone hates Toby. He works for corporate, so technically he is not part of this family. Oh. And he is also divorced, so he is not part of his own family either. My ex got with 2 of my friends after a pretty bad breakup, to the point where it just seemed like she was trying to hurt me and my so-called friends were willing to do the same to get some action. So I was in the car with a 3rd friend on Thanksgiving Eve telling him how much this was affecting me, to which he replied, "That's so sh time and I'd never do that to you." Well, that Christmas the very next month another friend shows me a picture of that friend and my ex together on Instagram. They started dating shortly after that. So much for "I'd never do that to you." I had a friend do the same. 2 days after a bad breakup and she went and spent the weekend with my ex. He lived up the road from me and she did the walk of shame past my house. My 16th birthday I invited my friends over for a party including dinner. I spent all day cooking with my dad and made beautiful chocolate mousse cups and chocolate bowls. I went all out and I was so proud of the meal. I told everyone that dinner was at 6:30. Nobody showed up until 8:30. They were completely stoned and had a bag of toys from Dollar Tree. I had already cleaned up and put away all the food. They had all been hanging out without me on my birthday and I was still an afterthought. I had the opposite happen. I helped my friend plan her sweet 16 and got really excited to help her with everything. A week or so before it was supposed to happen she told me she wasn't going to have a big party. I felt really bad. She decided to cancel it and asked my mom to drive me over to her house on her birthday so she would know a friend was thinking of her and to give her the gift I had gotten her. We pull up to her house and there is a big party going on. I was so pissed that she lied instead of telling me she didn't want me to come. Wow, that really sucks. Something kind of similar happened to me. I made food, but although several people said they were coming, only one person did. I was glad I wasn't totally alone, but I was also so embarrassed and humiliated. Here I was stupidly thinking people were really going to show up. This has happened multiple times to my BF and I. We don't invite anyone over anymore except for 3 people. And it's never on the same day just to be safe. It's hard to realize you are not your friend's priority, even sometimes. Even more painful when it happens repeatedly with different people. We actually questioned for a while if we were bad people, and just didn't realize it. My friend, we live on estate, texted my roommate owner of the condo who was living in California at 5 o'clock in the morning PST to say I was high on meth and having sex parties every night. I was fast asleep. Turns out he was the high one texting so early. He was upset at me about something I stood up for and tried to make me homeless. Reason: we were at a bar, he was very buzzed and high sitting at a table, and my other friend and I literally just got there just in time to miss a big disagreement between 2 other friends, and he was pumped up to fill me in, but the way he snapped his fingers and slammed the table to demand me to sit next to him was too much. I said, "Let me get my first drink first, then I'll walk over. Don't snap your fingers and demand me." That escalated quick way. He threatened to tip the table over. It was ugly. She started effing my husband while I was pregnant. Hey, mine too. While I was letting her and her mom live in my house rent free. What kind of fed up do you have to be this shy? I opened up to my ex-friend about being depressed and suicidal. He called me a PSY for thinking about suicide and that I have nothing to be depressed about. He stopped talking to me after that semester was over. Ignored me when I asked for a small favor from them even though I helped them so many times. Wasn't laughing with me but at me and always pressured me into doing things I didn't want to do. Mid 2000s he tried to paint me as a porno king in high school just to get a girl not to like me cause he had a crush on her. Backfired. They immediately came up to me, asked me about it, and I said I only had one Playboy mag. My freshman year in college I had 2 roommates and one of their girlfriends came to visit for the weekend, so the other roommate and I were gonna give them the room to themselves for a little while. Most nights this wouldn't be a big deal, but this was in the middle of a blizzard and we had almost 2 feet of snow, so there wasn't really anywhere to go. So my roommate and a few buddies were gonna take a friend's truck out for a ride through the snowy hills we lived in and smoke some weed. As we are walking out to the truck I realized I forgot something and ran back upstairs to grab it real quick, and when I came back down I see the truck driving away without me. Turns out one of our other friends had their GF in town too and he brought her along, so there wasn't room in the car for me anymore, so they just left without me without waiting or even trying to tell me. When I was 14-16 I lived in a granny flat at the back of my mum's house. I had a big group of friends who would stay every weekend. We'd have drinks, movie nights, just hang out really. We were like a family and we're all really close. Then mum put our house on the market and I lost contact with every single one of them. I think that's still the most used I've ever felt. Probably because the friendships meant so much to me. And I feel like they faked the whole thing for a place to stay. My best friend best man at my wedding fed my married sister on my wedding night. Turns out a full open bar was a bad idea. She invited me over to hang out. 35 minutes and she was like I will be right back, gets in the car with her boyfriend and leaves me at her house with her kid siblings. She fine tricked me into babysitting. They started hanging out with the people that let my sister overdose. I sent my friend who was supposed to be in my wedding a text message telling her that my now husband and I had decided to elope before he deployed to Afghanistan because we wanted to be married just in case he didn't make it home. But that we would still be having the big wedding when he came home, and I was so excited for her to be a part of that. She never responded and hasn't spoken to me since. My husband and I just celebrated our 3rd anniversary. They tried to drown me. 1. Wouldn't stop judging me for the dumbest things. 2. Wouldn't stop cussing me out for no reason. 3. Said I was academically dumb. They always came to me for help though. 4. Said I wasn't street smart. I can kinda agree with it. 5. Told me my hobby activity I do, band, will get me nowhere in life. I never said I wanted to do it as a job. Luckily I blocked them out of my life and don't deal with them anymore.